really bittersweet. I love what I do, in that I'm leading an amazing team of humans. I'm frustrated. We should not be here. I live in the quintessential picture perfect storybook Middle West, Midwest city, town. We think we're a city. We're about a 20,000 person population. And COVID's running rampant. I think there's 215 active COVID cases. 24 people, 25 people are in the local hospital. Some are on ventilators. Opinions here about hospitals, I guess it's probably like anywhere. The difference is we have one hospital in the county. The county north of us has one hospital. The county west of us has one hospital. The county to the south of them has a hospital. The county to the south of us doesn't. They depend on our hospital or Clinton. Clinton is the other hospital. So I have a friend who's actually in the hospital with COVID, and she's not in the hospital here because she doesn't like the local hospital. It's a lot. Tomorrow, my city, my town, begins to host the Missouri State Fair. I am vaccinating for COVID-19 at the Missouri State Fair. Preparation for that has been very smooth. We're working with the local hospital. We're working with the Pettis County Health Center, the local health center, to vaccinate. Talk to the highway patrol to make sure that I had security. That's how well we think it will go. I have 400, I actually don't have 400, I have 350-ish. Hopefully by the end of the day I'll have 400 doses of Johnson & Johnson. We also have 100 doses of Pfizer. I'm driving down the fair right now. Let me see if you guys can see the fields of campers and trailers and campers and trailers. We normally get, I think there's, I have no idea. I don't know what the fair average is. I can tell you this, as a resident of the city who lives where the fair is hosted, I generally tend to avoid the fair like the plague. It's not my normal scene, but it is what it is. I'll go this year every day for 10 days straight to try to save a life, because that's how I see the COVID vaccine. Having been in New York in the spring of 2020, I see COVID different than all of my neighbors. Came home from New York wanting to warn my friends and family about this insidious virus that I watched decimate the human body. And I was called a fearmonger. and I was told to be quiet. It couldn't happen here. My favorite is those people got what the Lord wanted to deal to them. I don't know. You'll find in the coming weeks. I love Jesus, and Jesus loves me. I don't like people, and I really don't like a lot of people who call themselves Christians. COVID's here. COVID's killing people. COVID has killed people in this town. Even one of the hometown heroes, someone who was well known, it's quick to watch people turn on loyalty, because that's what I've seen, is a local man was, he was a great guy, and he did a lot for this community, and he died of COVID. And when you try to remind people of that, they then remind you that he was aging, he wasn't in the best of health. There's lots of reasons he died of COVID, but it's certainly not COVID's fault. I just don't understand it. I don't know. Driving to work every day, I have overwhelming concerns with what's going to happen today. How many people are we going to test? Because my organization I work for is one of a few places to open. Well, I think we're the last community testing area. So the difference, my definition difference, I don't need my patients to see a physician. They can call, tell me they want to be tested. I ask some questions because the state of Missouri requires us to ask some of those questions. But they don't have to see the doctor, which is big. There's a lot of people in this area that are uninsured or underinsured, and I get a lot of questions about what does underinsured mean. Underinsured means, if you are working at a job, one of the local plants, and you make $10 an hour, and your health insurance might be inexpensive, and it's $180, $200 a paycheck, but your copay out of pocket is a $10,000 or $5,000, you're uninsured. Nobody in this town that works at the local plants has $5,000 or $10,000 laying around their checkbooks. I don't. I make a hell of a lot more than that because of what I do for a living. I'm on the probably middle to upper part of the community because I'm a healthcare professional. I'm a respiratory therapist by trade. I say 1,000 times every day when people call me a nurse. I'm not a nurse. I love nurses, but I'm not one. I'm a breathing expert, respiratory wizard, not a net jockey. So that's it. That's this morning. Well, today's the day. We're gonna drive to work. I have to go to a rural area in the morning. There's a food pantry that I'm gonna offer vaccines at. The last time we went, we vaccinated one whole person, which is one more than was vaccinated. So that's good. We come home in the afternoon, and then I have to load in all of the tables and chairs and whatnot to the state fair. In typical Missouri weather, it is 83 degrees at 7:30 in the morning. The dew point is, I think, in the 80s right now. In other words, it's actually hotter and more humid here in Missouri than I think in hell. You can tell it's humid. Curly hair, the curse of bad. I don't know, bad hair. My thoughts on the fair. I try to avoid it because I'm mad. I'm mad that we're in the middle of a surge. My local hospital has a very small, they don't even call it an ICU, it's a CCU. It's full. It's full. So if my husband were to have a heart attack, he wouldn't be able to get to bed. If my special needs daughter were to have an uncontrolled seizure, oh well. And we're having the Missouri State Fair. I think, I was trying to look online last night because I was watching my video from last night and realized that, I never gave an estimate. I think probably, I don't know, I want to say 10 to 15,000 people come, per day to the fair. Is that a grossly insane answer or guess? I have no idea. I don't deal with the state fair in a normal year because, these people come to my quiet. Oh, my husband's calling me. I don't know what to say. I'm sad and I'm frustrated and I'm angry and I'm pissed that we're here with, thousands of people coming to visit the town I live in the middle of a pandemic. It would have been safer for us to have the fair last year with the numbers compared to the numbers now. The hospital has, it's, what's the 12th? Yeah, the 12th of August. And the hospital has had 106 admissions for COVID in 12 days. They have 25 COVID patients ranging across all of the hospital units. So we're going to bring thousands of people to town. It's just ridiculous. So, like I said, I'm going to go in and I get to start my day by going to the food pantry 45 miles away and hoping we vaccinate some there. Then I have to pick up the tickets and I have to pick up tables from the health department. Nobody from the hospital told me I need to pick anything up. I'm not going to offer now. I know that you guys will see this well after today, but pray for us. It's just stupid. It's stupid. When is it okay to put lives on the line because of money? And I guess we do that every day in America. I guess it's something we've become good at. But it's disgusting. It's disgusting that, We're still having concerts every night of the fair. We're still having the rodeo. We're still having races. Like, we haven't done anything to attempt to change anything about the fair. So, I'll take you guys later. Alright, time to put my happy face on so my employees don't read my room. Oh, night one of the Missouri State Fair. Vaccinated 6 people, which is 5 more than I thought we would. I got interviewed by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. So, you know, I'll replay that in my head for the next 3 weeks and wonder if I said something wrong. I had one person come to the table and was like, has anybody taken the vaccine? And I said yes. And he like rolled his eyes and was like, I just don't think. And I just looked at the person behind him and asked him if they wanted like free stuff that was on the table. Like, overall, people were polite and people were kind. A lot of older people like would pull up their sleeve and say, I've already got it. So I just say thank you. I don't know what else they want me to say. I'm tired. It was hot. It was 97-ish degrees with super high humidity when we got to the fairgrounds, and we had to carry everything else in like by ourselves. It was just me and my 2 nurses. So I'm hot and I'm tired and my muscles hurt because I did that a couple of times today. Tomorrow they said that KSHB, which is the local NBC affiliate from Kansas City, wants to come and interview me. We had boxes of masks on the table. I probably gave 10 or 15. People would see us wearing masks and then they would say like, oh, do you have one? I would like point at them on the table in front of them and they would say, oh, we forgot our mask. One woman said that if her daughter asked me, which I don't know who her daughter is, it's not that small of a town. If my daughter asks you if I was wearing a mask when you saw me, tell her that it was blown off in the storm and I got one. Because we had a pretty severe, it was severe thunderstorm in other parts of Missouri. I don't think it was that bad when it came through Sedalia. So that's it. That's the first day. I'm tired. 6 people. Somebody was like very disappointed, like one of the fair people came to the booth right at the end and said like, oh, how many people? And I was like, 6. And he was like, 6? That's horrible. And I was like, 6 times 10 is 60 people. If we can do 6 people a day for 10 days, it's 60 more vaccinated Missourians. So I'm not gonna complain. We took vaccine for 64. So, you know, a little under that goal, but I'll take 64 doses tomorrow, and I'll take 64 doses on Saturday, and I'll take 64 doses on Sunday, and we'll see where we get. I'm hopeful. At least everyone was kind. They told us we would see highway patrolmen several times. I saw 2 in the whole 4 hours we were out there, so I made sure I posted the number for my employees so they know who to call if they have an emergency. I don't know. I think that I've learned to cling to hope and positivity in the last year because it's gets me through. Here's to tomorrow. It's been a few days since I've checked in. I'm in the car, so it's quiet. Today is day 8, I think, of the state fair. We've vaccinated 46 people, which is probably 40 more people than I expected that we would vaccinate. Overall, people have been strongly opinionated. Either they stop and they say, thank you, I'm vaccinated, I have my 2 Moderna, I got my 2 Pfizer, or they're very strongly opinionated the other way, and they want me to know that they don't believe in the shot, or they don't believe in COVID. And I don't engage at this point. I mean, what I've learned, wisdom is age is wisdom. What I've learned is I'm not going to change anybody's mind sitting at a table in the state fair, so I might as well save my own mental health and just not engage. Had lots of questions about the 3rd dose versus the booster and all of that information coming down and disseminating that for the public. Of course, I'm doing that at work for my own providers and my own employee base. I don't know, I'm frustrated tonight. I'm gonna have worked more days than we want to count in a row. My last day off was August 1st, and today's August 20th. So I've been at work 19 days running now. And I had a heart-to-heart with my boss, or one of the bosses, earlier this week, and she reiterated that I overcommit myself and I need to prioritize and carve out work time versus personal time. And that's great until you think about in the middle of the night and you're up at 3 a.m. pondering the positives and how they're doing, and you think about, if I say no to an event, was that the event that somebody who needed the shot was going to come to, and I said no, and now they're not going to ever bump into us and they won't ever get vaccinated. And a very good friend told me last week that it's not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility. She just kept saying that over and over, and I hear what she's saying, but I don't think my heart believes what she's saying. I've referenced New York a lot in the last week, and anytime I think about New York, I get sad and overwhelmed, and I think that in New York I was helpless, in the sense that as a respiratory therapist, I have a toolbox of things, tricks of my trade that I can show up in a dire circumstance when a nurse is super concerned. I'm switching hands. Sorry about the wobbles. If a nurse calls me and says the patient's not breathing well or she's concerned, I go to the room when I work in a hospital and I quickly assess that patient, and that's where training comes in, and I quickly disseminate how best to help the patient. What do I think the problem is? The nurse and I and the physician will quickly figure out labs to order and things like that. But my objective, labs are great, but the patient has to be breathing. And so, That's our job. The breathing is our guru, whatever you want to, whatever acronym. It's what we do. And I would get called to bedsides in New York. And when I think about it, I think there's one specific night I was in the PACU, which had been turned into a COVID ICU. I'd been there for a few shifts in a row, so I'd kind of gotten to know the patients. That night, the sicker of the patients were in the back of the PACU, and the newer patients who were not as sick were in the front of the PACU. They were all intubated. They were all on ventilators. There was one guy midway through, I think he was bed 14. Just wasn't doing good. His ABG had been shitty for 2 days, and we were watching him spiral the toilet. And he was getting ready to tank hard, and we were going to lose him, and I think we all knew that. And here comes the resident to the bedside doing rounds, and calls for RT, and he's like, the patient's satting 65%. That's the thing with oxygen saturation. It's a percentage. When you're looking at oxygen saturation, you're actually looking at how saturated is the hemoglobin with oxygen molecules. And so it's a percentage. It's 50% covered. That's really bad. It's 100% covered. That's really good. I like to I normally tell my patients or family members of patients when they're asking about oxygen saturation, I will say to them, it's like your most basic test. It's a percentage, 90 and above, you get an A, and I don't take B's. So if you're not 90 or above, I need to do something as a respiratory therapist to recruit more lung, or we need to, look at a shunt issue and, get your VQ mismatch matched back up. And so, the resident hollers for respiratory, and I walked over because it was my patient. He said, he's satting 65%. Like, you need to do something. Like, I remember looking at the monitor, and then I looked at the patient, and then I looked at the doctor, and I said, well, what do you think that I can do? And he said, well, can you do something? And he said, no. I said, no. I said, the patient's on 100% oxygen on a PEEP of 16. What do you want me to do? Well, there's nothing else I can do. I'm doing everything I can do. The ventilator's doing everything. The patient's sedated, the patient's intubated, the patient's paralyzed, so they're not bucking the vent, and the patient's dying. That's the reality. The patient is dying. And what do you want me to do to stop the death process? If I could figure out how to stop the death process in a COVID patient, I'd be famous. And I just remember that resident was, he was disappointed that I didn't have another trick in my toolbox. But I was doing everything I could. And I just remember standing that whole shift. Next, I would bounce between the patients, but I spent a lot of time at that bedside watching that patient die. Helpless. There was nothing I could do. There was nothing that the resident could do. There was nothing that the attending could do. There was nothing that the nurse could do. We could focus on the patient's comfort, and we could focus on the patient's death process, but we weren't going to save that patient's life. And I am hearing, it's August 20th, 2021. I was in New York April 6th of 2020 to May 30th of 2020. So, gosh, quick math, 14 months later, 16 months later, 12 plus 4. Really smart, but math gets me. It's 16 months later, and I'm hearing from friends who live 100 miles away that they're now seeing that. That's the COVID that they're now seeing in their ICUs, and it's something that they hadn't seen. These are young people, and I know that young, age is such a subjective, young versus old versus young. I mean, when I was 20, 40 seemed really old. Now that I'm in my 40s, 20 seems really young. 60 doesn't seem so old. I think that working in critical care and working in the hospital, I'm at peace if somebody's over 75 and they're in their death process. 75 years is a good life. You've had a good life. You've had a good life expectancy. You've lived to a good age. 60, I can justify it a little better. Patients in their 50s, I get a little upset. Patients in their 40s, I think that sucks. Patients in their 30s, they shouldn't be dying of viruses. I have to watch HIPAA. I had one patient that I will forever remember his name. It is burned in my brain. It was one of the first patients I took care of. One of my first nights I was in New York. And he was still in the hospital when I left. He lost a limb to a blood clot. We had to amputate an appendage, at a joint. Praise the Lord, he survived COVID. Maybe. I don't know. He was still pretty heavily medicated, so I don't know if his neuro is intact. That's the biggest thing, is that we saw over and over and over again. Your brain needs oxygen to live. It's how your brain operates. You have to have good blood flow and good oxygen supply to your brain for your brain to function and continue to function and not have damage. And you can't have people sit with PaO2s in the 20s and 30s and 40s. That's significant issue with hypoxia for days, for weeks. You're losing brain cells. So you have friends and family who have survived COVID, but they're never going to be the same because their brain died. Whether it was a significant amount of brain death where you now have an adult with an anoxic brain injury where they have CP type damage where they're infantile in their ability to care for themselves again, or whether it's a small amount of brain death that, it's a small amount of brain damage that they just don't remember like they used to remember, that they're not as sharp-witted as they used to be, that they're not quite as on their toes. That's still shit. That's still crappy for the family who has to deal with that. I have somebody in my life that I love very dearly who's had a stroke, and that's essentially what's happening. It's not a blood clot that causes brain death. It's just the fact that if the brain can't get oxygen, the brain cells are going to die. And my entire life has changed after my husband's stroke. He's not the same as he was before his stroke. And I can tell you it's caused significant heartache for my family, for my children, for my husband, for myself, for my in-law, for my own family. I mean, it's just, and it's not diagnosed, it's not recognized. Like hypoxic brain injury post-COVID, it's not like, it's not a medically coded diagnosis. So these people just recover and go crazy because things just don't feel the same. And then I have to fight with somebody, not fight again. I won't engage, but I have people walk up to a table in front of me and tap the table and let me know that this virus is not real. Where the hell did the flu go? Where the hell did the flu go? I think this is just the flu. I've been a respiratory, I haven't been a respiratory therapist my entire adult life. I haven't. I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I went to college late in life. I was 36 when I started respiratory school. I think I was 37 when I graduated. One thing you'll learn if you ever have a loved one go through any kind of, nursing school, respiratory school, medical school, you eat, live, and breathe, and you lose years of your life because all you're doing is studying. But I've been a RT for almost 7 years now. I graduated in November of 2014. Let's edit that out, Daryl. It was November of 2014 I graduated from respiratory school. And I've seen the flu. The flu in 2017 was a shitty flu. I watched several people fight pretty significant pneumonia, and we lost 2 or 3 patients right around Christmas of 2017 because the flu was very significant, and it caused pneumonia, and it was bad, and we lost 2 or 3 patients. 600,000 Americans have died of COVID in, 16 months? It's not the flu. I'm tired. My friends are tired. My loved ones are tired. The people who have poured into me to make me the therapist that I am are tired. And I think the ones that say they're not tired, I'm probably more worried about them than the ones who admit that they're tired. Because denial can get you a little further, but denial bites you in the ass every time. The human mind, I don't think God created us to see the amount of deaths that we've seen. When I have young, passionate RTs posting on Facebook that they're tired of watching young people die, that they're tired of terminally extubating, because that's the thing. Like I feel like respiratory therapists were grossly misunderstood. People don't know what we do for a living, and it's kind of been the crux of being a respiratory therapist. You've got to love rejection, because nobody knows who you are and nobody cares what you do until they need you, and then you better show up and be there immediately. But I don't remember ever talking about terminal extubation in respiratory school. I don't remember any of my college professors having any conversation at any point in my schooling about the emotional toll, the spiritual toll, the physical toll, the mental cost of being a respiratory therapist in the final moments of someone's life, because it's my job to flip the ventilator off. It's my job. The nurse stands there and she's fantastic, and the nurses are supportive, and the nurses will be the ones who listen to the heartbeat stop and call time of death and like confirm with the physician that the patient has died at 4:14. But it's my responsibility to walk into the room and to look at whatever family is there, or now post-COVID, no one, to say to the patient, it's time for you to go. And I wish you peace, and I wish you goodness in this transition. Call on the name of the Lord. Cry out to Jesus. And then it's my job to reach over and flip the machine off and cause that person to stop breathing. And I've done it hundreds of times. And I don't remember all of the faces, and I don't remember all of the names, and I question if that makes me a bad person. Because I would want someone to remember my family member's name, or my name, or it's heavy. All of it is heavy. And I will never escape the personal responsibility of telling the story of the 600 people that I flipped switches off for in New York. Because even if the patient has already made their decision that they're going to die and their heart stops, they will continue to breathe until I walk into the room and I flip off the ventilator. And it sucks that I come home and fucking 16 months later, I still have people who want to challenge me as to the severity of this illness. How do you argue with that level of denied reality? Fucking get a vaccine. Take the stupid shot. Wear a mask. I worry that in another 16 months, we'll all know someone who died. And I was thinking and talking to someone today about that concept. And I look in my life, and both of my parents are 80. I have sisters. I'm the youngest of 5 girls. And I have sisters that range in age from just over 60. And I'm 43. I'll be 44 next month. And I look at my husband's brothers, and his oldest brother is 51 at the end of this month. And his youngest brother is Dan's 29 and holding. But Dan's close to my age. I look at my mother-in-law. My father-in-law had passed away years ago. but I look at my mother-in-law, who's in her 70s, and then I look at my kids, and I look at my cousins, and I look at my husband's cousins, and his aunts, and his uncles, and I think we're all going to lose someone close. Like, everyone in America will be able to say COVID, and you'll think of the person you lost to COVID. And who in my life is expendable? Which one of those people is it okay to lose? I read an article today about a nurse in St. Louis who got COVID, and about 4 weeks after she thought she'd recovered, she was pregnant, she lost the baby because she formed a blood clot in the placenta. She'll never forget COVID. And I have a very dear friend who is very vocal of her disbelief of the severity of COVID. I mean, she had it last year. My whole church had it about the same time. And this person has been very, masks don't work. And people look at her for information. She's a former nurse. And she said the other day that I don't remember if I saw it on Facebook, like it showed me her comment, or if it was I overheard her talking. It wasn't, she didn't say it to me, she was talking to me, I was somewhere else. I think that it was on Facebook. But she commented and said that, she used to be very close with her grandmother before grandmother passed away. And she had shared, like a lot of stories and spent quality time listening to her grandmother discuss her life. And that her grandmother had been born in the early 1900s, and she's never mentioned the Spanish flu. So what we look at the Spanish flu and the history of the Spanish flu isn't true, because her grandmother never mentioned it. And I question if I'll talk to my grandkids about COVID. I don't think I would. I don't think that I would talk to my grandchildren about the worst moments of my life. And my dad was in Vietnam. He's never sat me down and told me the gruesome horror stories. I don't even know if he has any. I know that he served in Vietnam, and I know that his unit was one of the most they lost some of the most numbers, more people from VQ1 were killed than from any other unit. It had something, I know part of it has to do with a plane crash. My parents don't talk about it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Oh, Vietnam wasn't that bad. My dad's never talked about it. I don't understand how people reconcile my nightmare, my horror story, and other people's horror stories. I'm not the only one who has been affected deeply by COVID, and people just want to shrug off my trauma. I don't know. I guess it's because I wear my heart on my sleeve. It's my next tattoo, I think, is when I win the lottery. I don't know. An anatomical heart on my deltoid. That way people know I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm emotional and I feel things, but shit, I'd rather feel things than harm someone else because of my own plausible deniability. I just don't understand. I'm going to turn the light off, and I'm going to turn my camera around. And I'm going to do that because my girls are laying outside Oh, I don't think I can turn my camera around. So this is the problem. I'm an idiot sometimes when it comes to technology. Oh, I wish I could. My 2 girls are laying on the sidewalk looking at the stars. And they're why I continue to fight. One of them turned 6 yesterday, and she can't be vaccinated yet. And she needs someone to speak for her, to say that her life is worth some turd head wearing a mask. Like, Jesus, it's a piece of cloth. And you know what? For people to bitch to me, and that's what I feel like, there's several people in my life who feel like they have to defend why they don't wear a mask. Like, oh, I'm claustrophobic. It causes me to have anxiety. I don't like the way it feels. It makes it hard to breathe. And like, I'm very gracious normally, and I'll try to give them a suggestion, like, have you used a face shield? You might look into blah blah blah. Like, I try to give them a positive answer. When I really want to go, are you fucking kidding me? Really? You're gonna bitch to me? You're gonna come to the girl who for 4 days a week, 48 hours a week, and that's if my shift was 12 hours. That's if I got to come in on time and I left on time, which normally didn't happen because, I mean, I could give a report, but if a patient was in the middle of shitting, like spinning the drain, and they're getting ready to die, I would say to the other RT, I'm going to stay late. It's okay. You go do your first rounds. I'll stay here and I'll finish this code. It's what we do as healthcare professionals, is we help each other out. I mean, like, I sat in an N95 mask until I have a scar on my cheek from where my skin broke down. And you're going to complain to me that you don't like wearing a mask? Like, suck it. I don't care. It's probably too real, Daryl. It's probably too real for the live versions. But I just, what the hell? What do you want me to say? It's like people want my permission, or they want me to give them. I think that's what it is. It's like they, you know, when you're not doing something the whole world needs you to do, there's some guilt and there's some shame. And so you're looking for somebody to, you know, take it away. And I won't. Put the mask on and go do what the fuck you want to do in life. But no. All right, I'm going in to eat a cupcake. Thanks for listening. I hope it wasn't too real tonight. I feel better, though. One more day of the state fair. My goal is to get 4 people vaccinated tomorrow, and we can have hit an even 50, which is lower than the goal of 60. When the first day we got 6 people, I thought, gosh, if we do 6 a day for 10 days, that's 60 people. And we're at 46. So that tells you we didn't do 6 a day. But that's 46 more people. And you have to take some of those people out. We've done some second doses. So it's people who initiated vaccination before the state fair. And it was convenient for them to get their second shot from us. Big size. Thanks for listening. Tonight is my first night in forever not working late. I'm already in bed. Excuse the hair. I already have my glasses off. In my pajamas. Pfizer was approved by the FDA today. So that's, I hope, a step forward. I feel like that takes away some of the excuses, but I feel like that's what it is at this point. People have come up with excuses for why they're not vaccinated. They're not reasons, they're excuses. FDA being approved, I am sure there's going to be two things that I expect. New excuses, and the other will be mandating. And mandating breaks my heart. I don't think there's anything that's truly one size fits all. So, I mean, like, not everybody can take the shot. Like, my kid needs people to take the shot so that she's safe. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. I feel like the ring of death, I don't know what to call it. I think of, I was lucky to go to New York, and I truly knew, I knew one person on Long Island before I arrived on Long Island. Shout out to Megumi. So I didn't know anyone that died. And it's getting closer. Now it's friends posting about friends who have died. It's people who are like kids posting about people they know dying. It's friends posting about their friends dying. And I feel like it just marches closer. And next, it'll be my friend. Or next, my family member. And I have a very dear friend who continues to remind me that COVID is not my burden to carry. It's not my responsibility. I can do my work, and I can do all that I can, but I can't stop single-handedly. And I know, it's not about me. Like, I don't want to sound selfish when I say that, but I feel the weight of the responsibility. If I can explain what an mRNA vaccine is and how it works, then I can dispel someone's false belief that mRNA vaccines are changing our DNA. They're not. Let me make that clear. They're not. To talk about spike proteins and how the mRNA vaccines work, it's not causing female sterility. There's no proof to back it up. I said to the pharmacist at the local hospital, I had to go pick up 300 doses of Pfizer today to distribute in my organization. And I was talking to him, and he said something, I don't remember what he said. And I remember I said to him, I think the number one comment I heard at the fair from people who were like against the vaccine was they'd rather take their chances with COVID. And I don't understand that. Like, you literally have more, statistically speaking, more of a chance of being struck by lightning than having a severe side effect from COVID. And I know that there's the anti-vax crews that are going to say that like tens of thousands, 30s of thousands, 50s of thousands, hundreds of thousands of virus reports have been reported. And I mean, like, I had my own virus report. I submitted a virus report on myself because I had a hospitalization within 7 days of receiving my second shot. Do I think the Pfizer vaccine caused me to rupture my appendix? No. Causation versus correlation. So, I mean, like, yes, there's been tons of various reports. My hair is driving me crazy because it looks weird. There's been tens of thousands of, if not hundreds of thousands of various reports, but I submitted a various report today at work. Like, it's what we're supposed to do. If somebody has an adverse reaction, we'd submit a various report. I've submitted more than one at work for all kinds of reasons. I don't understand the misinformation that floods the internet, and everybody believes what they want to believe, and then they go find facts that back up what they think. And I'm probably just as guilty. Like, but I literally carry in my work bag a copy of the vaccine insert for all 3 of the vaccines. Because I've had people stomp up to me and be like, oh, I want to see the vaccine insert. It's got a QR code on it. It's the only thing on the sheet. It unfolds to poster size. It's the only thing on the paper. It's a QR code and the words intentionally blank. I'm sure that's a conspiracy theory too. It's just a lot. I know that my husband is facing surgery in September. His chronic health conditions are deteriorating again. And I'm stuck in this September 15th is my 1-year anniversary of working for my organization. September 20th is supposed to be the booster rollout. Do I take the absence write-up because I'm not FMLA qualified, so I don't get excused absences for his surgery, and pray for his surgery to happen in early September? Or do I wait, pray for it to happen in later September and then not be able to go? Because there's no way I can take the time off when the booster rolls out. There's no way. And I do this for a living. I can tell you right now, not everyone, it's literally 8 months after your second dose. So if you got your second dose in January, which means you had to have gotten your first dose in December, which is only healthcare workers. It was rolled out to us first. I qualify for a shot in September. We didn't even get vaccine in my organization until the end of January, which means it would be end of October. No, January. So February would have been second dose. 8 months from February. Yeah, it'd be late October, early November before we have patients that are qualified for booster doses. But I still have to have all the T's crossed, I's dotted, and all of that stuff. I still have to have a team of all of the nurses in the clinics and my team of vaccinating nurses ready for the booster rollout. Tomorrow's going to be a good day. It's Tuesday. I'm delivering vaccine. I have to send out Moderna and Pfizer to all of my clinics. I might rearrange some of the J&J just so it's more even. But I'm determined. It'll be a good day.